the moment you've all been waiting for. It is the Biz Coach Show.
I'm waiting for you the day that you actually play, and it's going to be like a golf clap.
When I upload that into the media.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna upload something like, "Hey, let's go Knicks," or something like that. Or
man, get out of here! Stay on topic, damn it!
Yep, here we go again. It's the Biz Coach Show. All right. I am your executive producer. I am Chris Flowers, and we are here with the one and only, the founder and now five-time author, Eric Whitmoyer. What's going on, my brother?
Not much today. Good day. Actually, glad to be finishing up with the book, and everything should be available next week. So pretty excited about getting that monkey off my back. That's for sure.
And here it is, the book in question we were talking about, the CEO's Playbook for Scale. It is available for pre-order now, by the way. So we're just, like I said, we're just putting that out there. We've also, for My Biz Coaches, have expanded our reach and our toolbox a little bit more. Now we're going into book production, book publishing.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't we talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that. So in the process of writing this book, which took a little bit longer than I would have hoped for, it was because I was creating a process that would allow us to help others who would like to write their own books. And there's a number of different solutions out there. There's obviously AI solutions. There's ghostwriting. There's a lot of different ways that you could go about doing that. Certainly there's more traditional publishing, which is not really feasible for most of us these days. Right. But if you have a huge following, you might be a standard publisher to endorse you. But even then, I will tell you, the first thing they'll say is, if you've got a 50,000, 100,000 following, then they might be willing to get you in advance or do something like that. But generally, no, you'd almost have to have millions of followers to get like a front endorsement. But anyway, what we're doing is we're helping clients who have identified, hey, I'm in a special niche of service that I provide, and I'd like to write a book to really kind of put my ideas out there and segregate myself from everybody else that does what I do, which is what we highly recommend to clients that are in the service-based industries. But we recommend that you consider writing a book. And so what we've done is we've taken the entire process from conception all the way through to publish, and then go launch live on Amazon. And we have a number of different printing solutions that are relatively cost-effective. So what we literally can help you do is put your book together, get it all ready to go, and then publish it, and then how to distribute, sell it, and get some book sales. So we're pretty excited about the opportunity. It is initially we're really kind of focusing on people who are coaches. So anybody in our brand of My Biz Coaches, but we'll be opening that up in the coming months to other people in other disciplines as well.
And that's one thing, again, I think you got to remember, people that are out there, this is not Eric's first rodeo. This is his fifth book now. Okay. So if anybody understands the process and what it goes through and everything that it entails, it's somebody who's a 5-time author. So, yeah. And even in this book, as much experience as he had, it was still a process because of the fact that he took his core, because we had the 6 core competencies, and you expanded it to a 7th. So even in the discovery of the book, and you're wanting to write this book, you found something like you had this epiphany to where it's like, okay, hey, we need this 7th core competency, and that changes the core of your coaching, the whole thing. So when you're writing a book, you know what I mean, and this is something I'm considering as well. But when you're writing that book, it's gonna open you up to different things and different thoughts, and like, oh, this is. And I mean, so there's going to be delays, there's going to be roadblocks, but when you really get it tuned in, it can be that, epiphany that takes your business from here to just the hockey stick.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, agreed. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited to get it in people's hands and get feedback from people. I know the initial dozen or so people that I provided copies to throughout the process, and and getting their feedback in regards to, hey, this is what we like, this is what we didn't like. And I made some tweaks based on some of the feedback that I got. The point is that you want that kind of feedback because it's helpful for you to identify what is or isn't working in your book. But to your point, in regards to identifying, hey, these 6 core competencies, there's something missing. That epiphany came through this process. And like anybody who is a high level strategic thinker, when you're doing something like writing a book, there's a tendency to, one, you stay out of your own head too much so that you're not overthinking everything. But what you are doing is you are thinking in the background, right? Your subconscious is analyzing and processing certain things that if you're using those same practices in your everyday business, what it does is it really kind of brings things forward for you and makes you think about what you're doing differently. So again, super excited to put this in people's hands because I want to see how people are responding to this. I want to put this in coaches' hands and allow them to, those who are partnering with My Biz Coaches, and allow them to actually use the 7 core competencies with the 8 phases scale overlay and help them identify with their clients where they might be struggling, where they might be stuck, and how they can resolve that. And then we also have the app as well, and we created our own app that will support that. So we have you can actually go to it'll be live here next week. The book will be live. The app will be live by the end of next week. It's called My Biz Navigator, and the My Biz Navigator app will allow people to go through an assessment, and from the assessment kind of identify for themselves where they feel like they may be lacking in their business, fill out some basic core information about their business, and it will give them ideas on what they can improve in their business. So, and the financial implications that those improvements could have in their business. So allow them to kind of extrapolate from that what the ROI would be to make those changes in their business, which pretty substantial. We've been able to re-engineer an algorithm that would help them identify that if I fix my leadership challenges, if I fix my people management issues, if I fix my sales and marketing issues, or whatever that might be, what would take me from where I'm stuck right now to that next level, and the financial impact that could have in the business. So pretty excited about kind of tying all that together, but it's been a great experience, and super excited about the publishing opportunity because more and more people can leverage the opportunity to create their own book and put that out there for themselves.
Outstanding. And one more thing, and I know we talked about this in the episode when we were talking about the book launch, things like that, about just you got to stick to it and you got to stick to the grind. It was good, I think, and when I wanted to get your opinion on this. It's good to reach out to other people and say, hey, what do you think? Give me your opinion. But at the same time, opinions like assholes, everybody's got one, right? So, you got to remember there's going to be a lot of people that are going to piss in your Cheerios, right? They're going to say, oh, you can't do this. Oh, this sucks. You know what? F them. Keep driving on, right? Would you not agree
100%,
on that?
100%. Okay. Yeah.
There's going to be, you're going to be a million people that have an opinion saying, oh, this sucks. Or okay, that's great. Well, I'll send you an autographed copy. Fuck off. When I'm sitting there at Times Square selling my bestseller and, shit like that.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, in my very first book, Success with Goals, one of the things, I was trying to get more book reviews. And so I was submitting it out to people who actually get paid to do book reviews, right? And so I was sending it out to people for their book review. And it's not really expensive, but it can be expensive. You send it out to 20 or 30 people, and you're paying a small fee for them to do your book review. Plus you're giving them a free copy of the book, right? Anyway, I remember somebody did the book review and then acknowledged in the book review, this isn't what I normally would read. I'm not even really interested in the topic. But here's what I think. And they gave me a 3 out of 5. And I was like, I'll tell you what, that certainly rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, but
actually, I would have took that as a positive. It's not something they would normally read, and something that was not completely in their wheelhouse. But they still gave you a 3 out of 5 for something they didn't even like. So, if anything, I think that's more net positive myself. That's just the way I look.
That's fair. Yeah, but it was kind of a rub. It was like, it's like, well, then why bother review it if that's not something you're even interested in, right? But to your point, 3 out of 5 for somebody who doesn't even like that content. But I say that in kind of supporting what you'd mentioned, which is there are going to be people, there are going to be naysayers, there are going to be people that say you can't do it. It's, what are you thinking? The truth of the matter is you got to drive on, drive on, push through the noise. That's why another piece of why the publishing company, I believe, is so important, because I think traditional publishing doesn't exist the way that it is. And honestly, I don't know that you need a publisher. I mean, yeah, there's certain aspects about, what sounds good, what reads well, all that kind of stuff. There's some components of that. And we leverage people that we have resources with that will help you kind of identify that for your book. But there's also the coaching aspect of it, which a lot of people don't appreciate. And most people wouldn't know unless you actually wrote a book. Even if you did ghostwriting, like a ghostwriter leads you through what you should put into the book, how you do it. They know how the outline should look, and then how you fill in the pieces and everything like that. But the challenge is that when you're doing your own stuff and nobody's kind of challenging you to keep pushing, there's a tendency for the book to take a lot longer than it should. Right. And we have a tendency to not share that we're actually doing a book because we don't want to put an undue stress or undue angst on ourselves. And so I don't share it. And if I don't share it, well, that damn thing could sit on the shelf for years before it finally gets completed. Right.
Exactly.
But I will tell you that with 100% certainty, if you really want, if you know your content, you're comfortable with sharing your information and you're on site, you can, if you could stand on stage and talk about what you do for 90 minutes, you can create a book. As far as all the mechanics of writing the book, we have tools, we have resources, we have people for that. But you have to have the genius, the knowledge, right, to be able to provide it. And you got to have a little bit of personality too. But you take those two things, you put them together, and you got a pretty good book. Most importantly, it's yours that now, when you walk into a room, you can say, this is me. These are my ideas. This, and I would strongly encourage you to read it. And if it's a 80, 100, 120 page book, it's a little bit more expensive than a high priced business card, but it's exceptional because the people read it and they get a feel for who you are and they resonate with you, just like with video. Some people like video, some people like to read, right? Mm-hmm. And a read I'm sorry, but a book still has a little bit of what's the term I want to use? You've arrived concept, right? The people when you've written a book, people are like, oh wow, this person's actually written a book. I don't know that writing a book is as impactful as unless you actually know what it's like to write a book. Because if you know what it's like to write a book and how hard the process is, there's a whole nother appreciation for that individual now, in my opinion. I think that's harder than actually coming up with the content to write the book.
No doubt. Like I said, this, again, it all pertains to even just starting a business in general. You're going to have your naysayers. You're going to have this analysis paralysis. Yep. You're going to have a lot of things coming at you. But like I said, it's that ability to focus, the ability to drive on and keep the main thing, and just keep moving forward, through all the adversity. That's any business. And that's writing a book or, whatever, even if you're practicing golf, man, it just,
absolutely.
It doesn't matter what it is. It's all, and those who are like, I love what, Kevin Leary was saying about Elon Musk. He's like, he is all signal. There's no noise. That guy is so focused.
Right.
It's all signal, no noise.
Right.
And it's like, I wish I could get, but that's where I'm working towards that. Like I said, just signal.
Yeah. He's like 99% signal and 1% noise. I think actually when Kevin did that assessment, he said that Gates was the other person that he acknowledged that was really signal. Was it? No, Jobs, not Gates. It was Jobs. Steve Jobs.
Yep.
He said Jobs was like 80-20. He said Elon's like 99-1, right? I think he said 100-0, but but to your point in regards to that, that's actually again why we're so excited about launching the publishing company. It's called Biz Coach Publishing, and the reason that we launched it, another reason why we launched it, is we realized that a lot of people would write more people would write books if they had somebody that would keep them on track, right? So the accountability of showing up every day and doing some writing every day You can't write a book in a weekend. The few people that do that, it's kind of unique. It's a very, very unique scenario.
We're not Stephen King. We're not this. That shit ain't happening.
Right. No, exactly. And even then, if you ask Stephen King, he'll tell you is like, he's got a couple that came together like that, but there's many that took him months and years in some cases to really pull them together. But the point is that you need somebody to continue to cajole you and challenge you and nudge you and remind you to get out there and do the writing every day. Stay on top. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to the BS that's out there. Stay focused on the topic and then see it through. Because, one of my biggest, I think one of the biggest things I ever learned as it relates to education, as an employer and somebody who employed thousands of people throughout my career, I don't know that I was as impressed with any education, like whatever your degree was. I mean, there's certain people, rocket science and stuff like that aside, right? But generally speaking, you get a 4-year degree, you get an MBA. I'm not really impressed with somebody with an MBA, quite honestly. I don't know that necessarily means that they're any smarter than anybody else. What it does tell me, though, they have the discipline to stick through and finish. Mm-hmm. And that's
I've met a couple of rocket scientists, and they're again same thing. And then they're literally rocket scientists, and they're like, okay, great.
And the intelligence is phenomenal. It's great, but it's only potential, right? It's application of knowledge.
Between IQ and EQ.
Well, that's a whole nother dynamic. But
it's a whole different show right there. Might have to do a show on that one.
Yeah, the key that I really acknowledged as it relates to education per se, and again, same concept as a book. Stay at it until you complete it. Right. Mm-hmm. Education, the fact that you finished school and you got done with your higher level education, whether it's a BA or MBA or a doctorate for that matter, the fact that you stayed with it till you finished it is more impressive to me than what your degree's in. Right. That's what my point to that. And same thing with a book. The fact that you stayed through it and finished it, even if you sold like 10 books to your family, the fact is you completed a book. That tells me a lot about your character and your personality. Mm-hmm. Because it's not easy, especially if you can look at it and say, I'm proud of what I provided, even if nobody buys it. The fact that you're proud of what you put into that book and the information, the insight, and the perspective, you did your due diligence, you did your research, and you finished that project, that says a lot about you as an individual. So I say that to anybody who's interested in writing a book, because I think that's as important, as impactful as anything else you might do.
Okay. And here's the difference between Eric and maybe another author. The author is going to say, yeah, okay. But here's the flip side. He can help you get through it. He can help you with the process. He can help you with the publishing. So if you talk to an author, they're going to tell you exactly everything he's saying because he's saying it from an author's perspective. But on top of that, he has also expanded that to where it's like, oh, and if you do want to write a book, we can help you with that. And we can help distribute it and so on and so on. So there's the difference right there. And I applaud again, something you've taught me, something I've known about, from the banking side, but then you reinforced it and taught me. And then this just expands it more to where it's like, you can have your base core business, right? But then also have those offshoots, have those diversified revenue streams that will help empower, because like I said, if one side's down, the other side might be up to where it's like, okay, hey, it might become a time where right now publishing is not bringing in the revenue that the coaching is, or the marketing is, or, the lending is. But on the flip side, you might, that marketing, the publishing side might carry for a little bit when lending's down or whatever. So if you have those diversified revenue streams, you're just expanding, growing your market territory. And, like I said, you're offsetting risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that.
If you're keeping the main thing, if everything's
I was just going to say, yep. Great point. Great final point, because that's the key. Is that to your point? It is beneficial to have those additional revenue streams. It is certainly beneficial to have things that you can lean into if the market shifts or something like that. But you can only do that if at least one of them is paying the bills. Because if one of them hasn't reached a certain threshold, I mean, Alex Hormozi would say you stay the course until that's doing $1 million, and he goes, even then, he would argue that if you stay the course on the program that the business that you take to $1 million, then stay that course until you get to 5, 10, 15, 20 million, because you may very well deter yourself. Now, the caveat, in my opinion, would be, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, by the way, that the caveat, in my opinion, would be how related are the businesses, How
Yes.
closely are they aligned? So it's not a completely different. And you look at Elon, and there's one other piece to add to that, which is he's not doing it by himself. As
Well, of
smart as
course not.
he is, as much signal as he is, and everything we just talked about, he's not doing it all by himself. He's got CEOs that are running each of those different entities. And even
Right.
though he may be actively involved and he's the biggest voice that you hear, he's not making day to day decisions. Other people are running the day to day businesses,
No.
right?
No, of course
But you
not.
have to
Yeah.
build the business to the point that you can put somebody in charge and run the day to day and then move on to that next project. That's the key. Because if you don't do that, then what happens is you dissipate all the energy, all the resources. That includes human capital, that includes financial capital. You deplete it amongst two or three or four or five other projects, and now none of them really see fruition. Right? They don't completely flourish the way they should.
Right.
So the key is to get it to a certain point, and then as you add those additional offshoots of other businesses. Now, and again, like I said, I think it's important in our case that they're direct correlations. I'm already talking to the clients because I'm helping them with
Mm-hmm.
their business. Oh, by the way, you got a marketing challenge. Oh, by the way, you got a finance challenge. I got a team that does that. I got a team that
Right.
does this, right? And I make those
Correct.
introductions and hand them off in that way.
Right. And again, that ties into my point of it's all coming back to My Biz Coaches. It's all focused and centered on. There's different offshoots and there's different revenue streams coming in, but the core is still the core,
Yep.
right? Because that's where I think a lot of people, a lot of business owners go sideways too. Again, we've talked about this on different shows, things like that, where they'll see that shiny thing, like, oh, I want to get into doing that because that's a moneymaker. Okay,
Yeah.
but it pulls you away from the core business of what you're doing. Now neither one of them are thriving the way they
Right.
should, because you're splitting because even when you're publishing the books and things like that, it still ties in to My
Absolutely.
Biz Coaches. So
Yep.
if anything, it's not taking away from My Biz Coaches, it's just expanding that
Yeah.
to where if you go something completely off the rails, like I go into XY, like if I start a restaurant, you know what I'm saying, on top of I'm doing, here's the deal. I'm split. And then once
Yeah.
you like I said, you can't fight a war on too many fronts,
Yeah. That's the best analogy you could have used. Absolutely.
right. So everything's got to tie back into keep it the main thing. You know what I
Agreed.
mean? Because
Yep.
at worst case scenario, let's say one of the offshoots doesn't work out as well. The main thing's still the main thing.
That's right.
But if you let the main thing die, then you're SOL.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And I actually wrote about that in the book. On one of the chapters, one of the discussion points was the idea that it goes back to the seventh core competency, right? When that came together, what I had identified as there was something that was missing, right? And I realized it was technology, or was more specifically, it was innovation. Initially, it felt like technology, but it was actually innovation.
Right.
Technology is a component of the innovation, right?
Totally.
But to your point, what I identified in kind of going through that exercise and challenging myself to really kind of lean into it and say, okay, look, I've always kind of seen it as part of operations because I saw technology as part of operations. But technology is in and of itself isn't innovation.
No,
It's the way that you think differently about your business is what I was referring to as it relates to innovation. And that is often technology is a component of that. But more specifically, because of what we're dealing with AI, that is even more so in our faces. And technology is going to be probably one of the leading components of innovation in the coming years, particularly over the next 3 to 5 years, and probably ongoing into the future significantly, right? But all of that to say, kind of going back to your point, one of the challenges is, for instance, even writing the book. You said yes, it's a correlation of what I do as a coach, but it's a time suck. Pulling the time away to go write the book, it did impact My Biz Coaches. Ironically, we've grown dramatically in the last year, mostly because of bringing on my executive assistant, and then the team that we've recently built around the marketing agency as we brought that in, and the work that they're doing to help our brand and our imaging and expand on it. And that's been phenomenal. But all of that said, that's because my brother's running most of that, and I'm not having to, micromanage all of those things. I might sit on sales conversations because they're my clients in many cases or something, but I'm not running all of that. The book, on the other hand, was absolutely all me, and it was a time suck, right? I mean, it really pulled a lot of extra time. I would suggest that we probably, I don't want to say we lost clients, but we maybe didn't acquire as many new coaching clients as we might have because I was focused on writing the book. Now, the grand scheme of things, the book will likely act like a megaphone and create more and more lead opportunities in the future.
Right.
But in the short term, it took some time, pulled it away from my focus of the business and everything that I was doing. So know that, right, going in. And that, again, all the more reason to use a resource like ours where we can help you get through that process so it doesn't suck up your bandwidth, your time, and your energy. Yeah, a lot of great comments in everything that we've discussed so far. There's just so much that, as you look at the different facets of the business, you look at things like writing a book and the benefit that will have to your business. Tying them all together. You mentioned the innovation piece, or I mentioned the innovation piece, talking about staying true to the core. I always reference back to one of my favorite books, which is Built to Last, and Jim Collins and his cohort the individual Porus. I can't remember his first name, but the two of them wrote Built to Last, and in Built to Last, they wrote a chapter specifically that said, stay true to the core, but continue to innovate. That's my version of it.
Right.
They use some different verbiage, but it's kind of the same concept. If you don't stay true to the core and continue to innovate, right, then what happens is and I love this, is from a movie analogy from Other People's Money from 1986 with Danny DeVito. But he talks about making the best buggy whip. At the turn of the century, we were still riding horse and buggy, right? And if you made the best buggy whip out there, you were amazing. However, as soon as cars hit the grand scheme, like that was the primary mode of transportation. That was only 10 or 15, 20 years later. And as that took over, there was still one guy who was making the best buggy whip out there. And he was doing it while they were just producing cars, thousands a day or whatever, how many they were building or whatever at the time. And he was still making his buggy whip, saying, I just need to make them better. I need to make the horse snap faster. I don't right. No, there's nothing you can do. That's technology. It's you didn't innovate. You should have transitioned your business to identify where things were going and take whatever knowledge and insight you had in making the best buggy whip and identifying what's the next buggy whip version or whatever you can make with what you know, and turn that into the new business model that you have, because innovation has taken over and exceeded what you're ever going to do now.
100%.
Yeah. So a big piece of that, I think, is really important for people to understand as it relates to innovation. And when you said stay true to the core, but continue to innovate, that you didn't say those words, but that's exactly the message that I would.
That's where I was going.
Right?
Yeah.
Try and drive home to people, because that's key.
Yep, that's absolutely key, and that can also, in a way, help avoid burnout, because you're staying passionate. The thing that got you into business, what you've been passionate about to begin with,
right?
Going off and doing something else may not be, your passion, and like I said, if that's sucking away all your energy. Again, that we could talk about a whole show on that. Anyway, so again, we can get off that.
Well, you know what? I think we should stay there, Chris. We might as well finish out the show with that. Yeah, okay, because we'll take the topic that we had for next time, because I just thought of something else that would be really valuable to share as a thought process. Howard Hughes. You remember Howard Hughes? Okay. Yeah. I'll test some people's knowledge on history here. So Howard Hughes was known for a number of different things, one of which was actually being a warmonger. He made and then sold a number of weapons during World War II. But Howard Hughes was an innovator. He was very much on the cutting edge of newer technology and things like that. He is known for building a plane called the Spruce Goose, which was a wooden plane of all things, but it was the most massive thing in the world ever created at that time. It still today is a pretty significant endeavor when you think about it, for the time that he built it, the resources that were available, the technology that was available at the time, and what he built.
It was made out of wood.
Right. And the key was that it was a plane that would take off from the water.
Yep.
but it would be able to carry, like, I don't know if it was like a battalion or whatever it was, but it was like you could carry a whole bunch of equipment, Jeeps, tanks, all kinds of stuff like that, plus a certain number of people. And it was a massive thing. And what was ironic about it is the everybody said he would never get it to fly.
Right.
He finally did a test drive and got it off the ground. And I don't remember, it was 60 feet, 100 feet off the water or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't get very far, but it still got up.
But it got off the ground, right? I mean, he proved that he was capable of. And again, I say this, and I don't remember what year that was, but it was around World War II. So let's call it 1940-ish. What was available then and what's available today technology-wise, and they still have not created a vehicle as big as that was at that time, I don't believe. But I say all of that to say, as it relates to innovation, here's the kicker in all of that. He was also known for producing countless movies. I don't remember how many movies he made, but he made a number of movies. He was actually a very significant, I don't know if it was a producer, but he definitely played a significant role in Hollywood and making a number of movies. He had a very eclectic, what do I call it? Social. He was socially, he had a number of different, what do you call them? High, well-recognized, we'll call them well-recognized actresses as girlfriends and things like that. So he had a social life was what I was going for. So he had a very active and very open social life that people were familiar with. So he's building the pieces of equipment, all these different planes and things like that specifically. He was actually his own test pilot in some of those planes. He was a pilot, an active pilot. He made movies. He dated all these people. And with all of that, right, you know how he was able to leverage all of that?
No.
A company called Toolco. It made, I don't know, parts, like tool parts or something like that. And it was a family company that he took over. And he leveraged the crap out of that business. Like it was a profitable business. He was wealthy already, but he took loans against that business and gambled immensely to make movies and things like that. Like, I mean, he like, if I understand correctly, he leveraged the entire equity of his that business, that family business that he took over. He leveraged the entire equity of all of it to do one movie, I think, or at least he was already leveraged so much so that it took all the equity out of the business. But I say all of that, had he not had that, right? If that business wasn't productive, hadn't been to a certain point, he would not have had the ability to go and do these other things that he did because he leveraged that to go do all the other things he did, to build all the other things that he built. So again,
back to Elon. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Tesla X. SpaceX.
Yep. And then, of course, that was a good example too, because Elon made $250 million from the PayPal mafia when they launched PayPal.
Yeah.
And so he took the $250 million, and if the stories that I've heard, the urban legends, I'm relatively accurate. He took it down to nothing. He was, as a matter of fact, he had to borrow money to pay his mortgage or his rent on the house he was renting or something like that. Because he used the last $1 million or something. I don't remember how much it was to do each of their launches. They had enough money. They had gotten to the point where they were down to, well, this is SpaceX specifically. They had gotten down to the point where they had enough money to do 3 launches. All 3 of them failed. And he was able to scrounge together just enough more to do one more. That's the one that was successful. That got him the contract from the government. He got a big $10 billion contract or something like that, or whatever it was. And now it didn't pay out right away. It paid out over time. But he was able to leverage that and scale that. And now SpaceX, I heard it is going public here relatively soon.
I believe so.
They're going to take it as a public company. But all the while he's building Tesla. All the while, he was an active partner in what was the solar company that they had.
The Tesla batteries might still be Tesla because the batteries are Tesla branded.
Yeah, no, the Solar City. Oh, he was a founding partner in Solar City.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Okay.
put up the money for his, I believe it was his brothers or cousins, and they were found, and he was one of the founding partners of Solar City, which then was acquired, which is a whole another interesting story. But it was acquired by Tesla, and that's what they make all their solar panels now that they make and everything like that.
Yeah, and the house battery systems and everything.
Yeah, but again, staying true to the core, right? Continue to innovate.
Yeah.
It creates the opportunity for you to do other things and innovate in ways that, because if you didn't have enough money from the core business, you wouldn't have the resources to go do these
To do
other
the
things.
other stuff. Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm going to play executive producer here. I'm going to say that the Spruce Goose was actually built. It was completed in 1946, and it had its one flight November 2nd, 1947 in Long Beach. So that's executive producer point number one. Number two, Howard Hughes made at least 14 movies that he's accredited for. So,
Wow. I did not realize it was that many.
yep. It said at least 14.
At least 14.
So there. See, I was playing executive producer.
Appreciate that.
Coming up with the show facts. See, there you go.
There we go. Yeah, supporting my insights. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's I was always impressed with people like that. I mean, there's a lot of negative things that can be said about those individuals and some of the challenges that they have because they're very unique individuals. And obviously, Howard Hughes, I think, at a certain point,
amazingly recluse, he like shut himself in. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Lived the rest of his life in what was it? He just kind of locked himself away, right?
Solitude. Yeah.
That was the word I was looking for. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so something to be said about that, the uniqueness about his personality, and ironically, not knowing what we know today about things like autism, it almost makes you wonder if that wasn't what his issue was. He was very autistic or Asperger's or some other thing like that, right?
Yeah.
But something to be said for that, because I've heard some similar comments made about Elon, for that matter, and even Gates and Jobs, right? Because they did lack a certain set of social skills. The one that was probably the most, at least in my experience, knowing the stories of each of those different founders, Gates was probably the one that was the most, if he had any sense of autism or Asperger's or anything like that, that really allowed him to function at that higher level, to your point, higher signal, lower noise, was probably the most, that had the best handle on it, was probably Gates, because Gates was smart enough to realize that he wasn't the guy that was going to take Microsoft to the level that it needed to go to. He was the guy that got it to where he got it to, but he was the one that brought Ballmer in as their sales guy. I think initially they brought him in as VP of sales, and they all went to college together. And the other owner,
Jobs did the same thing with Woz. He did the same thing.
Well, yeah, Woz was the technology. Jobs was but they didn't have the third guy. So Ballmer was the third guy, because it was Gates and who was the other partner of Microsoft? It was another tech guy, and then Ballmer was the third guy that they brought in. And the key about Ballmer was he was a personable guy. They would play poker together, and he was the I don't know this about him, but if I was going to make an analogy, he'd be the guy that smokes cigars, drinks scotch, and it has the conversations with people. But he was definitely the sales guy. And Gates promoted him to CEO, and then Ballmer took Microsoft to a whole nother level that Gates admittedly said he wouldn't have been able to do himself. Mm-hmm. But
Ballmer's accredited as being the key partner in the successor of Bill Gates. So
as the successor of Bill Gates, exactly. Yeah, I bring that up because it's few and far between that founders are able to endorse somebody else and let them take over the helm and run the business to the next level. Because I've said this before: what got you here won't get you there. And any one of those unique founders, with personality wise, they had certain skill sets that really took the business to a certain level. But they didn't fully see the potential until they either changed dramatically or they found somebody who kind of stepped in and played that role to help move the business from where they were to where they needed to go next. Mm-hmm. And it's few and far between that people are able to make that own designation. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was going to say, I lost it now. Other than Ballmer. Oh, this guy, Paul Allen, is also accredited.
Paul Allen, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was the third person. That was the third
Gates
person
and Gates and Allen founded the company. Ballmer was their buddy, and they all went to college together. And they convinced Ballmer to come in, and he, like I said, I think they brought him in as VP of sales. Then he became president of operations or something like that, and eventually took over as CEO for Gates. But it was Gates who realized, hey, look, I've taken it as far as I'm going to take it. You're the guy that's going to take it to the next level. So
I think this all ties back into one of the core things that we talk about here at My Biz Coaches is the delegation piece. Okay, you have to be able to let go. You have to have enough
confidence,
enough passion for what you do, and to bring the vision to full fluidity. But that means you're gonna have to check your ego at the door.
Yep.
When you agree to where it's like, okay, Gates knew he can only do so much. Jobs knew he can only do so much. Elon knows he can only do so much. And these are the top guys of the top guys. And they're willing to say, hey, you know what? I have to do this or else this Microsoft is done. Apple's done. X is done, kind of thing. So you, as a business owner, we talk about delegation and automation and innovation. We talk about this almost, that's just what we talk about because it's
all the time.
It's vital. Because you cannot scale a business until you're willing to say, hey, you know what? I can only go so far. And if you don't have, and we've talked about this on many occasions as well, if you don't have the people or the right processes in place to where you can walk away from your business for a month, let's say to write a book, or maybe just go on a vacation with your wife, whatever. If you don't have that in place, you have a job, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
So that's why you
have a highly leveraged job with a lot of debt.
Right?
Yeah, because whatever your costs are to run the day-to-day operations, to your point, you have a job, right? You have a job, not a business. You have a job. If you have to do everything or most everything, you have a job, and then you have an obligation or responsibility who everybody that works for you. Correct. Right. So you have a highly leveraged, high debt job, right? You got a job with a bunch of debt that you're carrying around. And until you learn how to step out and let the other people run the business so that you're not actively there, it's nothing more than a job, unfortunately.
You can have a passion and you can have, like I said, different offshoots of this and that and the other. But again, without those because, you had people that you can lean on and say, hey, you know what? And even to your own, acknowledgement, you say, hey, did we grow at the level, we were growing, we could have when I was writing the book? Maybe not, but you still grew. Business still, it was still there. Even though the book was a time suck, the business still kept going. It kept growing, kept thriving, kept doing its thing. So I think that's a credit to you. Having, walking the walk and talking the talk, because you were able to do that because you set these automations and these innovations and you set the right people in place. So that's a credit to you as a coach that you're walking it. Like a lot of people can run their, bump their gums and talk, but you're actually walking it. See what I'm saying? So I think there's the difference with you than maybe some other people. Like, a lot of people can, talk about, but you already set that thing in motion to where you could do these different, even like I said, innovating into the marketing, innovating into the lending. But if you don't have those right people in place, you can't do those kind of things.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Huge. And I appreciate that endorsement because I do pride myself on the idea that I do walk the walk, right? I was at a meeting the other day and I was telling people, I'm like, look, I'm like you. I got the same challenges. I got the same opportunities in my business. And I know better. Right. So I still have those challenges I have to work through. At the same time, when I tell you, you need to get up and you got to post every day on social media and you got to put your content out there. And if you're in a service-based business where putting your face as part of the business is important, you got to do your role. And I'm out there every day. My content is posted every day. I make sure that, and it's mine. I'm touching it. It's my content. They're my ideas. Yes, I'm leveraging AI to be able to do it faster.
Of course,
that's only smart.
Yeah,
right.
And it goes back to say we're walking the walk because we talk about innovation, we talk about using technology, and So going back to that, like I said, that's the point where it's like, okay, we're able to do the things that we're doing because of the fact that we put the foundation was laid out. Like I said,
Yeah.
we did it, or let me correct myself. You did it the right way. Like I said, you put the right people. You did everything you said you were going to do, and you did it. And here it is. And now you're able to do all these other different things because you got that foundation set up to where it can run technically without you. And
Right.
you can put your energy into different things. And then again, that just, builds, My Biz Coaches to just takes it to that different kind of level.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. Like I said, I think that's, and I will also say this, once you've done that successfully, whatever endeavor, however, like for me, I didn't do that as many times in my different businesses until I learned to do it when I was doing it for different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
When I learned how to delegate effectively, challenge people, hold people accountable, provide really solid coaching that help people grow in their careers and everything like that. When I got good at that in my job, I was able then to take that and leverage that in my businesses. Consequently, fast forward to where we are today with My Biz Coaches, and I'm able to do that in a way, not only do I kind of know what I'm getting myself into when I take on these new projects. I certainly don't know everything, right? And there's still you're always managing to new drama, new challenges, new opportunities.
Right.
But it does make it easier because I've been there before and I've done that and I've seen that and I know what that looks like. Even though it's not exactly the same, it has a lot of similarities to this other issue I dealt with once before. And so there's something to be said for that as well, because I think lots of times people struggle with identifying what is it that sets certain businesses apart from others in regards to their success ratio. And I would tell you, and a lot of it has to do with whether or not they're actually identifying what's working and what's not working. And when things aren't working, rather than making everything else revolve around you, which, oh, by the way, that's just not how shit works. Identifying that you're going to have to get better as the owner, as the leader, and realize that there's things that you need to do better if you want your people you want them to do better, or you want the business to perform better. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges with most small business owners that I see, is they think everybody should do this, or everybody should do this because, or it should work this way because. And I'm like, doesn't work like that, right? Clients don't buy just because you have the right product, solution, or service. Clients buy from you because they know, like, and trust you, right? And so it's your job to make people know, like, and trust you. And if they don't know, like, and trust you, you're not going to. If they know and like you, but they don't trust you, you're not going to get into business.
There you go.
If they trust you, they can't trust you if they don't know you. But it's like that. You got to be able to go out and greet and meet more people to be able to do that. Anyway, the point is that none of that happens unless you're doing those things. And when you find that things aren't happening the way you want, the business isn't doing the things you want it to do, the people in your business aren't doing the things you want them to do, is because you're, as the owner, dropping the ball. You got to realize, okay, what am I doing? What can I do differently to get a better result?
Right.
But that's a big piece of that. And so I say I walk my own walk, right? I pride myself in that fact. If I walk my own talk, if I'm saying this is what I'm doing it. And am I doing it great? Not always, but what I am doing is,
but you're doing it.
And I'm getting better while I'm doing it, which is the other piece. I get so many people. I know you and I had this argument, not an argument, but discussion a year and a half ago. You're like, well, it's not working. I'm like, it's not working because you're not doing it consistently enough. You got to do more of it until you get better at it. And when you get better at it, then you'll be able to charge more for it. But until you actually start doing it on a regular basis, enough times that you're building your skill set, nobody's going to pay you the top fees that you want to charge. Mm-hmm. But now you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 people, right? And then you're like, okay, well, now I can charge the premium fees that I want to charge because you've shown all these people what you could do.
Correct. And that was because of you. So,
I appreciate that.
So, in closing, like I said, we talked about a lot of things, but I think the thing that we, need to communicate again, everybody has a story in them. Okay. Everybody has, the book is there, and we have to be able to say, okay, if we're going to do this, don't try to do it on your own. Why reinvent the wheel? Talk to Eric, come to My Biz Coaches, let him coach you through it. And then what's the name of the publishing arm that we're doing?
Oh, Biz Coach Publishing.
Biz Coach Publishing. There you go.
Yep.
Somebody that can hold you accountable, make sure you're doing what you need to do, but then help you along the way and, get your, get you zeroed in and actually published. Because
Yep.
as I said, trying to do this, just like trying to run any other business, trying to do it on your own, it's going to be amazingly more difficult, but why work smarter, not harder. Right. So
Agreed.
The book is ready for pre-order, coming out here, a couple weeks again?
Next week.
Next
Book
week
will be available next week. Yep.
And the app's going to be available to, help walk you through it and everything like that. Anything you want to say in closing, sir?
No, I just always appreciate Chris. It's been a great show.
Well, can't have a great show without a great host. So there you go. We'll just, like I said, just to pump your ego up a little bit more here,
I appreciate that.
There you go. And even through all the technical difficulties we had, we still put it out there.
There we go.
Got to just drive on, baby. Just got to drive on.
That's right.
All right. And we're out.